Hi, friends. How are you? So, I am really excited about this live stream today because I have two guests with me. They are from Color Communications Inc., CCI, and they are in Chicago. CCI makes a wide range of color tools like fan decks, paint chips, and brochures, and they make them for a lot of different brands. And we are going to talk about that in a minute. But first, I kind of want to tell you how we got here. So, a couple months ago, I was on LinkedIn just scrolling through my feed and I saw a post of theirs. And I forget what it was about exactly, but it was something about their process. And I was really impressed. And I liked it and I left a comment and I said, you need to brag about this because more people need to understand how much time and effort and level of science is required to produce quality, accurate color tools. And so a little while later, I got a DM from their digital marketing manager, Peter Ragen. And he mentioned something about maybe collaborating in some way. So a couple of messages back and forth. And a little bit later, we came up with the idea of doing a live stream together. And here we are. And actually, Peter is the first guest that I'm going to add, and I'm going to do that right now.
Hey, Lori.
Hey, Peter. Welcome.
Lori, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I would love it if you could tell everyone what you do at CCI.
Yeah. So I just started about 3.5 months ago. Just finished up getting my master's in sports marketing. And I have, just been thrown into a situation of learning. And I saw your post, checked out your channel, and I was like, well, why aren't we collaborating more within the industry? And so I just thought there would be, no better way to start than the present. So, and here we are, which I'm happy about it. I'm ecstatic to be here.
Yeah. Well, 3.5 months in, you're obviously doing a great job because I saw your post and then we ended up connecting and, it turned into this. Right. And I think we need to add our second guest. Let's not keep him waiting. His name is Jerry Dimas, and he is the Director of Color Science Applications for CCI. And hello, Jerry.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us what you do at CCI as well.
Hi, I'm Jerry Dimas, and I, as you've already said, Director of Color Science Applications, which really means I apply color science to our product. So I do a lot of support work for manufacturing, sales, marketing, directly to customers as well. And so, yeah, in a nutshell, that's the best way to describe it.
Okay. And I also know that you have been on the board of directors with the ISCC for quite a while.
Yeah, I've been a member of the ICC since the 80s. I'm dating myself here. But yeah, so I'm a past director, past president. Currently, I serve as treasurer of the ISCC, which is the foremost professional color society in the United States.
I would agree.
So, yep, I just had to get a little plug in there for us.
Me too. I'm also a member. And for those of you that don't know, ISCC is the Inter-Society Color Council. And I think it's iscc.org if you want to go check that out. I highly recommend joining. The membership is worth the webinars you get. I mean, it's sure. They do an amazing job.
Yeah, it's well priced. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have been around for a little while, Jerry.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? And it's because I'm passionate about color. I love my job. I'm one of those very, lucky people who just, love doing what I do. I've been in color for 43 years. I've been with Color Communications for 38 of those 43. So, it's a lot of fun. I don't know. I love color. I love, it's a challenge. I've always I continue to learn,
Yeah.
which is
No.
one of the things I think is fun just in life is, we should never stop learning. And, color is one of those things that, while it's a science, there's still a lot of things we don't truly understand. I mean, it was one of my favorite things is, until recently, it was thought that everybody had the exact same numbers of rods and cones in their eyes.
Yeah.
And now through microbiology, we know that's not true. And we think that could be why different people see color a little differently.
True. That makes total sense. Well, I can tell you one thing that hasn't been around for a while, like you, Jerry. And Peter, that is this sample. So you sent me a packet of some samples, and a couple of them, I'm going to hold them up so everyone can see them. And they are your Color Tack product. And this one really caught my eye. So it's big, as you guys can see. I can't even fit. I don't know where to go to fit it all in. But it's a 5-color strip on your Color Tack product, Peter. So do you want to share a little bit about this? Because this is new, right?
Yep. That's actually probably the most recent thing that the innovation team has come up with, and that we've just started to slowly implement. But so like you said, I got a sample right here in front of me. This is just our regular Color Tack, and that is called our stripped Color Tack, right? So it's just the idea is that it shows multiple different hues of that same color. Exactly. Right. And this is a problem that we're trying to solve because actually I'm in the process of surveying, doing some qualitative analysis with the current Sherwin-Williams company, about 500 stores. I'm only about a quarter way through, but they have loved the idea, and the store managers actually say that they frequently run into the issue of not being able to present different hues of a color that they have. So again, this is in the very early stages, but it's a great idea that I think one day could be the future of where color tools are going.
Yeah. And what is the size? Do you know the size off the top of your head?
I don't know the measurements. I do not.
Yeah. It looks like it's about, I don't know, 9x14 or something.
Right.
But the Color Tack product you can cut, right?
Correct.
So if I wanted to cut these apart and then rearrange the colors on different planes, like on the wall and on the trim, or even take the big one and put that one on the ceiling and then put the wall color juxtaposed to that at the 2 different angles. Yeah. Cool.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Very cool stuff. And the format of paint chips really haven't changed. I mean, let's talk about some history. We're talking about Jerry's history a little bit. There's a little bit of history to color tools. Am I right?
Yeah, back in the day, probably, in the 30s and 40s, paint companies made their own. There wasn't a really the color card industry didn't really exist, not in the way it does today. And so paint companies quite often were left with no choice but to do it in-house, and found it to be terribly ineffective, because they're in the business to make paint and market and sell paint.
Mm-hmm.
And color supporting collateral was really not something that most of them wanted to do. And so that there was a need, and the color card industry, some of the early companies like Carl Gore, there have been, there was General Color Card, and there were a number of companies that had been around, that really kind of jumped in to fill those voids.
I muted it there because I had to reply to a comment. Sorry. We have about 9 people that are on with us. So, hey, everybody, welcome. And for those of you who are watching the replay, thanks a lot for joining us there too. So, the evolution of color and color tools. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, how has color science, because my favorite part to talk about is the color science, right? And Leighton, don't let me forget, I want to talk about metamerism and these chips,
Okay.
and
Sure.
also the meme. Well, why don't we do that right now? The meme that paint chips aren't real paint. I would love it if we could debunk that right now.
Yeah, well, they are in most cases. There are some companies that do print, that print their color chips. Printing, I came from the printing industry. My first 5 years in color, I was in printing, and you know what? There's a real problem with just being able to get, enough of a film on a substrate to be able to control the color well. And printing, most things in printing, they have about a very short life. They're very disposable. People aren't usually generally looking, they want things to have pop, or they want the color to look good, but it doesn't have to have lasting power. And, back in the day when all paints were oil based, the color card companies found that nitrocellulose lacquers worked really well. They are, because they're really applying this coating to a paper, and nitrocellulose is a great coating for paper. And so that's the way, that was probably the, original. I mean, this is once the industry kind of was getting started. I think that pretty early on went to nitrocellulose. Now, as paint evolved and we got away from oil-based paints, except for maybe certain exterior kinds of applications, but for the most part, your wall paints, your interior paints are all become water-based. There's kind of been a lag, I think, in most of the industry to keep up with kind of current technology. Color communications, we devoted a lot of research and, kind of vertically integrated ourselves to be able to provide the very best matches by having our coatings on our products are very much paint, just very much like wall paint. It is formulated, it's engineered to have different performance properties because, I'm not worried about things like sag or leveling. I'm worried about things like color fastness, and I'm worried about things like being able to be bent, being able to be cut without fracturing or chipping. So we engineer our paint out of the same materials as any other paint, any other, latex interior wall paint. But, we formulate it specifically to give us the properties that we need for our industry. One of the big advantages is we can use all the same pigments that are used, for wall paint.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And that's an advantage because, I mean, color communications was just like everybody else back in the probably 60s, well, 70s, in the early 70s. We were exclusively doing everything in nitrocellulose lacquer. We started doing work, and this is kind of interesting. Little story. Going to go down a rabbit hole here. Sorry.
We love stories, so go.
Okay. Well, we started doing work, back in the day. The largest paint retailer in the United States for paint was Sears. Sears was huge.
Okay.
They were the number one. We remember the brands, right? Weather Beater, right? Easy Living. These were Sears brands. And interesting thing was Sears liked to light all their stores with a narrow band fluorescent. And that's kind of a technical term, but it's really a special kind of a fluorescent that only emits energy in certain wavelengths. And the reason they did that was because it made your skin look nice and pink. You look very healthy. And when you go into a light booth and you turn on, what's called Ultralume, it's usually U30 is the CIE designation for it. I think there's a few of them, but what it does is it, makes your skin look nice and healthy, and so that's Sears was, putting that in all their stores. And all of a sudden they started realizing that all the color collateral for the paint, we were having metamerisms. Okay. And things were not, and metamerisms, for those who aren't familiar with the term, it really is, when your reflectance values change. Okay. Your reflectance curves, if you were to plot out the energy being reflected by whatever it is you're looking at, when those lines on the graph cross 3 times. That's kind of the definition of a metamerism.
Yeah. Well, let me jump in here real quick just
Yeah.
to help clarify that for
Okay.
the other half of my audience who aren't color nerds and in my chroma course. So metamerism, like in a nutshell, is when 2 colors match under one light source, but then they don't match under another. And so you change the light, you change the appearance of color.
Right. And what happened at Sears was they put in all these ultralume lights, and all the color collateral that had worked fine previously, all of a sudden there were colors that were mismatching. Hey, this is not the same color as the paint. And why was it? Well, it was because the color card company, which was actually us at the time, okay, was using a nitrocellulose lacquer to match their water-based, okay, easy living paint. And so at that juncture, Color Communications said, we need to basically kind of build a better mousetrap.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we said, if water-based and latex is the wave of the future, then we need to get in on it. And so we hired chemists, we hired, chemical engineers, and we've really have, developed a exclusive technology as far as our coatings go, specifically building them so that they are very much like real, like architectural paint, but it allows us to use all the very same pigments as what's being used by our clients. Our clients are pretty vast, which means I've got more pigments in my lineup than what you would normally find in a normal, in most paint companies. Now, there's exceptions to that, of course, but you go into your point of sale, and usually there's 12 to 15 colorants, tinters that will be on a machine where they're doing point of sale tinting. I have to carry closer to about 50 in order to make sure I can cover everybody's needs. If
Right.
I have one client who's using a colorant made from a specific pigment, one of the first things we do when we have a new customer is, we usually sign into a non-disclosure agreement with them, and we find out, hey, what are you guys using for pigments? And we want to do the best job we can. So we will develop stuff. We do all the testing here, we'll basically for light fastness, we do that in-house. We work with some very good companies that been into colorant for a long time, and they basically let us specify the pigments that we want in the products that they make for us. So
and that's based on your customers.
Yeah, and it's based on my customers.
So, you said non-disclosure. I heard that immediately. But can you share with us some of the brands that you work with that you make collateral for?
Yeah, well, we, Sherwin-Williams is one, Benjamin Moore, PPG. We do a lot of work also for some international brands like Farrell and Ball, Jotun, and let's see. I know I'm feeling bad because Bear. How could I forget Bear? We do.
Colleen Harrison, Colette. Sorry, I always call her misspoke. It's Colette Harrison. Wanted to know if you produce collateral for any British brands.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Colette, we do. Farrell and Ball. I got another story there, but I don't know if time will allow. But Farrell and Ball, they struggled. They had really big problems with color collateral, and when basically we approached them to give us a shot, they didn't have, they had not good experiences. This was about 10 years ago, and we've been doing all the. Their Farrell and Ball has got an accordion fold color card that is, I don't know how many panels on it, but it's
I'll get it.
prob-
Hold on.
do you have it there? Yeah.
Okay.
It's 120 colors, and the colors all face to face. And they go through a lot. Yeah. There it is. And we make that. And we've been making it for Farrell and Ball now for
Let me
about
get
a
it right in the picture. Vanna, my Vanna
very,
moment.
very nice. Yes.
Yeah, I have a little story about that whole incident with Farrow and Ball, and I swear this is ground zero for the meme that paint chips aren't reliable and you always have to buy and paint a sample. And it was on the House Forum, which is now it was the Garden Web. It is now the House Forum. Okay. There was a post. It's still there. Actually, I have a link to it. I'll share it in the comments if you guys want me to. You can go back, get in your time machine and we're going back on that forum. And some of the ladies on that Garden Web forum, they are hardcore color enthusiasts. They know their stuff when it comes to color. They know all about paint. Like they are into it, right? So somebody got the Farrow and Ball brochure, like you were talking about 1,000,000 years ago. And then they got samples and they didn't match. That was it. That's all it took. And I still have the fan deck from, in addition to the original brochure that they were talking about, I have the older one of this and that fan deck. And, back in the day, I didn't have a portable measurement device to measure it to get to the bottom of that, because normally I would have. Later on I did, but then I really don't know what the situation was because so much time had passed with with these, even though it's in a drawer, I still don't know how the integrity of what it was that I was measuring. But I'm telling you, that was ground zero for that meme that paint chips aren't reliable. That was it. That's all it took. And then it just spread like wildfire across all of blogosphere because, it made a good little soundbite. It looked very color experty and knowledgeable for a blogger to say, hey, you can't rely on the Farrow and Ball brochure. You have to get samples, right? And then it's kind of the same thing that happened with metamerism. And I might have had a little hand in the metamerism thing because I didn't have a clear understanding of metamerism 10 years ago. And on that forum, I had a friend, his name was Paint Guy. That's what he went by, Paint Guy. And he worked in a color lab. And, he said, hey, Lori, you might want to rethink what your perspective is on metamerism, because you're talking about color constancy, which is different than metamerism. And so that was another thing that spun out of there. So, it's a really great thing that Farrow and Ball found you and that you guys got your arms around this, Jerry.
Yeah, it was they of course became very interested with us once we told them that we could use a water-based, acrylic latex paint. And it was kind of funny. We actually had to kind of develop because, they are a sizable company, and we ended up doing a bunch of development work with them so that we could really even mimic their base very, very close. Because, one of the things about Farrell and Ball is, they have, I forget exactly how they describe it, but it's like, classic looking paint.
Mm-hmm.
And, we had to make sure we had the right technologies in place. And once they knew we had that capability and we basically shared pigment information with each other, we get 100% approvals from their lab on the color matches these days. Everything goes like clockwork. And it's because, one of the nice things about Farrell and Ball is while they add new colors from time to time, their colors are pretty consistent. The majority of their palette remains the same.
Okay. So what are some other ideas or things do you guys think, Peter, maybe you would know this. What are some other things that you think are pushing the evolution? How is the modern consumer of color, introducing new ideas and making you guys think about things differently? Like what's going on?
Yeah. So, it obviously, it kind of differs as to what, it is. DIY is going to value a little bit more than your contractors, obviously, right? But I think as as far as it goes, just like from a color tool, not so much a color science. Our scientist Jerry can tell you in depth about it, but from a color tool standpoint, I think for sure that the striped color tack, the color tack in general, Sherwin-Williams says they're the peel and stick. By the way, the measurements on that 8x14.
Hey, I was close.
Yeah, you were right. But I think it's it all comes down to convenience and ease of use, and that's something that sometimes with these paint samples, they just right like these little quart samples that you get from stores. You're actually painting them on the wall, and that can cause for more issues than answers. So, ease of use, something that is convenient and doesn't damage the wall when you're using it, which our peel and sticks or color tacks don't do. So yeah, I think that's definitely trending more so than people realize.
Something, Lori, also that we're very conscious of that is in demand is, like for instance, our water-based coating that we use to produce these tools has a much smaller carbon footprint than doing solvent base. Okay. When you do solvent base, you have to control your emissions, which means you have to fire up a huge, basically they're mostly natural gas furnaces. Okay. They're either what's called an RTO or a catalytic machine that actually burns up all the fumes, and it just uses tons of natural gas.
Yeah.
When we're doing water base, okay, our VOCs, our volatile organic compounds, is ultra low. And so, we don't have to run all that water base through the thermal oxidizer, which really shrinks our carbon footprint. Another thing that we also do is we are Fsc certified. So the papers and the materials that we use have all got like a certain percentage of post-consumer recycled material in it. And we try to make as much as we can recyclable.
Right. Yeah. Jerry, thank you for reminding me. Absolutely. From a sustainability standpoint, I think we are in a whole different league than a lot of people in the industry, truthfully.
Well, I would like to talk about the sustainability issue. And then we have a couple questions that I just figured this out, you guys. I was just going to peel this off, and it has what do you call this? A kiss cut corner?
Yeah, exactly.
Look at that. So you can peel it apart because people like me who have a million coats of nail polish put it in there.
There you go.
So this is I love functional design, people. I love this. Very, very nice. So when it comes to sustainability, in my Camp Chroma course, I teach everyone to get those architectural kits from your rep. They're free. You need them, and start with the paint chips first. And you can depend on them. You can rely on those chips, and then use those to inform your decisions about, your final 2 or 3 colors, and then invest in getting samples in only 2 or 3 colors. I have so many clients and actually designers who's well, these 10 look like they could work. Let's go buy all 10. And there's no strategy behind it at all, which drives me crazy. It's it's so wasteful. It's why you don't need 50 sample boards. You don't need to paint 50 sample boards and then shuffle through them, hoping one of them is going to work, So on my end, we layer in some strategy to, drill down on those target colors and choose colors that make sense. And a architectural color kit is a major starting point for that. It's that's where you need to start. And a couple questions. Let's go to that. Colette also is asking, do you guys promote fresh ideas to the paint companies, or is it more so that you are responding to their request? Where does the innovation bloom, so to speak?
Well, when it comes to color palettes, those are really controlled by the paint companies. But the innovative ideas like peel and stick, color tack, innovations like that. No, we bring those to the table. I don't know, Peter. You have
Yeah,
anything
no,
to add to
you're
that?
absolutely right. A little bit of both would be my best answer, and I think it doesn't hurt providing the companies with a little bit of, like I said, qualitative data that backs what we're trying to do, right? So as I'm surveying all these Sherwin-Williams stores, asking them questions about, hey, what do you think about this? Is this something the consumer at your store would like? Do you see this being applicable to your clientele base? Yeah, so on and so forth. And actually, it's gotten pretty positive feedback so far. So
Okay.
We've done a number of things, like even like grout, for tile.
Yeah. Oh,
Innovative things with ways to be able to do kind of replace channels. We actually have a peel and stick product for that you can
really?
actually take. It
When
has
are you gonna hook me up with that? You send me these chills. Where's that?
I don't know. I can get it.
that's in the
I can
next
get,
live
we
video.
we can get it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's it has aggregate in it, and you peel it, and you can stick it in between your tile to see
Oh
what
Lord.
if you want to change the color of your grout in your bathroom.
Choose it. Choose.
Yeah,
Okay.
choose it. Yeah, choose
Okay.
it or change it, whatever.
Because what I do, it's like
Yeah.
if everything you have to decide what color it is, right?
Yep.
Everything in your house, inside and out. It's like, well, what color are you gonna pick? And so that's what I help people do. So
Well,
grout is the pain point for me, and so is wood stain.
that's something that's pretty new right out of our innovation team.
Wow.
So
Wow. You guys, yeah, that's really good news. And speaking of woods, before I get too far, I just wanted to remind everyone that in the comments, you can find a link that Peter set up to get a free sample of color tack if you want to see it. And this, I think my favorite part is the little kiss cut quarter. It's ridiculous how excited I am about that, you guys. It's like
yeah.
really
Well, it's bad if you don't have nails, right? That's that. If you have really nice nails, or if you don't have any nails, the kiss
right.
cut is unreplaceable.
Right.
Yeah.
So my second major pain point is stain. It's like, okay, it's like, I need to get myself a big iced tea from Sonic if I'm headed over to someone's house to do deck stain, because the substrate, it's like the wood is, that's where it starts. And every wood takes stain differently, and even the same batch of wood might not be taking the stain the same way. So I really have to psych myself up to go do some stain for somebody. But I noticed that you guys have not only fan decks of stain samples, but also the color tack of stain samples, which again, the handy little kiss cut on the wood grained tack.
Yep.
So, I mean, how can you make color tools for wood stain? Like, that's my bottom line question.
Yeah. I mean, it's usually paint companies will standardize on a wood that, is like their standard wood, either like a piece of clear cedar or clear pine, but then they'll usually will show, what the color is likely how it's going to change if you put it on a piece of treated wood, for instance. Okay. Nobody to this point has wanted to pay to show each color over each wood, because we could do that.
You could.
We could. Oh, absolutely, we could. But the price tag on that becomes, because it's a lot of colors, right? So let's say you want to have 8 different woods. Okay, cherry, walnut. I mean, 8 probably doesn't even cover everything.
No.
But it might be the most popular ones. And then you want to show every stain in your line over each one of those woods. It's been done. It has been done in the past, but it's an expensive endeavor for the paint company. So they've looked for other ways to do it. Usually they take one color and they'll have a reference chip that they will put on the color tool that'll show, okay, this is this color over pine, over cedar, over redwood, over, and to give people some kind of an idea. I'm hearing you, Lori. And you know what? My creative juices are kind of flowing. There may be ways that we can actually maybe do better than that.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking. I can't give anything away right now, but you know
Okay.
what? As I do head up the innovation team also
Okay.
here.
And you'll
One of
call me.
my one of my things that I failed to mention was, yeah, and so I think I'll bring this to the team because I do have some ideas on that.
Okay, that's the grout thing, and because when it comes to paint color at this point, I mean it's been 20 some years for me. It's like when it comes to paint colors for, we counted one time. What was it, Jake? He said maybe 15 or 20 different paint brands that we have our hands on at any given time. Behr, Sherwin-Williams, all of them, because uh, it's regional. Like here in Phoenix, Benjamin Moore doesn't have a huge footprint, whereas Dunn Edwards does. And so when we work all over the country and our clients are all over the country, you have to be familiar with many different brands.
Yeah.
But at this point in time, that's not a problem. But grout is always challenging, and so is wood stain. And you mentioned something about doing the most popular wood stains. There are definitely trends in wood stains for sure. Right now, blonde is really popular, and the white oak is super popular and on trend. Does it get super busy for you guys when it's color of the year time right now? So, do you guys get really busy right now, or are you guys involved in any of that? Does that affect you? How does that?
It's funny how that's changed over the years. We used to be very, because people would like, you would see a lot of requests come through for materials, because depending on what the season was, right? So you might do a lot of exterior stuff during the winter in preparation for spring.
Oh,
And during, you a lot of times would see stuff like right now, this time of year, late summer, early fall, typically historically has been really good interior kind of business because everybody's stocking up, because when people are stuck indoors because we're in a bad winter, for a lot of the country, not everybody gets to live in Arizona. So, so, if you're in Chicago, all right, you know what? I paint the inside of my house during the winter, because, and so anyway, that's why the demand, but nowadays, um, with just kind of business in the 21st century, we try to do as much, just in time delivery. Nobody wants to hold big inventories. So we've seen that decrease quite a bit.
yeah,
Now you can get orders for anything almost any time of the year.
yeah. Peter, has supply chain been issues for you guys?
You know what? And I don't know if I have been around too long to experience that. As far as I know, no.
So where
But
you are right now, you're 3.5 months in, and it's like, what are you guys talking about? Supply chain issues?
well, I know that the paper obviously had an effect on us, but I'm sure Jerry could give you a little bit.
Yeah, early on after coming kind of out of the worst of COVID, there were, a lot of things, a lot of raw materials were placed on allocation, but we were very fortunate because we have been buying this stuff for years. And so our allocation was enough to carry us through without a problem. Paper is a little bit of a different situation. It's more of a commodity than a lot of paint materials are. And so, yeah, we compete with everybody else trying to get paper.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, we have jobs in-house right now, where our customers are, just waiting to get paper so they can print.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at the list of, because we had some notes here before for some show notes, right? Because we're all in show business right now, right? So I had some notes here, and I really didn't. I probably know what these are, but I guess I didn't know what the formal name was for these color tools. And one of the things we were going to talk about is what are the perceived advantages, disadvantages of different tools. And I found this list interesting. So you have peel and stick, which, self-explanatory. We all know what that is with that handy dandy little kiss cut corner that I love. Uh, um, and Fandex, that one's self-explanatory too. But can one of you tell me the difference between chipped color cards and a deposited color card?
Sure. A deposited color card, again, uses real paint, but it would be a lacquer paint. I'm not aware of anybody being able to do a water-based deposit card. Now, and I've been in the industry around. So yeah, I mean, it's almost exclusively always done in a solvent base. And what it is that you take there's no chips. What is actually happens is it's closer to a printing process. It's better than printing because you have the film build that you need in order to get opacity. But what happens is they actually apply this lacquer directly to the sheet, which is the print, which has the information on it.
And this is deposited.
That's deposited. Yeah, that's the depositing. Yes.
Okay.
And chipping is what we do. We don't do depositing. We used to. I mean, depositing's been around for a long, long time.
Okay.
I got pictures of our old depositing machines that goes back to the 1950s. I mean, depositing's been around, but one of the problems with depositing is off whites. Because they're printing on white paper,
Yeah.
right? So you're depositing a white on a white, and there's no three-dimensionality to it. And so people have trouble distinguishing that. That's been one of the reasons why a lot of companies don't go with depositing. They prefer chips because with chipping, there's a third dimension to it, right?
Mhm.
And you can tell that, what you're looking at is a white color, not just a piece of paper,
It
It
doesn't.
doesn't get lost on the sheet,
Doesn't
Yeah. I think in a nutshell, I mean, a lot of companies, we've got equipment that mounts color cards at a very high rate of speed. And so we can be pretty competitive when it comes to just about any mounted process. So
Okay, so you mentioned that you were like the team lead for innovation. What did you say you were?
yeah, I do. Yes.
So what looking forward? I mean,
Mhm.
is there anything you can share with us? Like, what do you guys think? Because innovation in terms of architectural coatings,
Mhm.
there's not a lot very often. So when something happens, we get very excited. So
Yeah.
is there anything that we should be getting excited about?
I tell you, here's what I'll do, Lori. I will promise that when I have something to share, I'll be glad to come back. Okay. And I wouldn't mind sharing, some of our innovations. It's a competitive market. So you know what? I don't want to overshare, but when I have something, when we're close on a number of things, I'll be glad to come back and we'll give you a demonstration. We'll be able to show you what it is we're doing.
All right. Well, just knowing that there's something percolating
Oh yeah.
is
No.
really is
One of the things color communications has been known through our industry, and you'll hear this from my customers, okay, from the paint companies. CCI has always been the innovators in our industry. I'm not take nothing away from my competitors. I got very, very, I have a lot of respect for my competition, but we are the ones who have always kind of said, you know what, nobody's ever cornered the market on a good idea. And so we're always trying to find good ideas, trying to find better ways to make mousetraps, better ways to make color cards, better ways to really fill the need. This is, our whole business has always been about that, filling the void. There was a void, that was created because paint companies didn't want to do this.
Right.
And we just in that vein, we continue to try and look for where's the void? Where can we introduce a product that helps fill a need?
Exactly. That's kind of where I am with Camp Chroma. It's like paint companies, a lot of people perceive paint companies of having this color expert thing locked down. And, they kind of don't. There are definitely gaps in areas for improvement, but, and that's not to ding them in any way whatsoever. It's like, do you understand the magnitude of what it is that they're dealing with just to make paint and get paint to a consumer? It's like all of this extraneous, color strategy and the details of color science and how to not just apply it to paint and color tools, but how do you take that science and practically apply it to the built environment, right?
Yep.
That's like a step beyond. It's a lot to expect from a paint company, and that's the pocket where people like me fit in. We fill that gap and use all the things, like all the tools. It's like, show me everything there is, because it's not one size fits all. And you need different tools for different applications. So Colors for You is asking, how about the background of color cards in a neutral gray instead of white? And we have this discussion in my group often about comparing colors to a white background, or if you are going to paint samples on the wall and you're going to have your painter prime it for you, don't get it in white. You can get it tinted in gray. And I give people a couple colors that they can actually get from Sherwin-Williams and Benjamin Moore to tint the primer. It's like, get it tinted gray because it's going to help you see the color better. Because we all know that white is going to skew your perception of color almost as much as any other color, because it kills hue. It like deadens hue, and it makes you think that a color is less colorful than it actually is. So that's why she's asking, why not gray?
Well, this is something the automotive industry has, again, been kind of ahead of the curve on. Color-wise, PPG does a annual production color book. And when they revamped it back in, 1987, I want to say, they came out with a couple of nice innovations. One of them was all the color chips were on gray paper.
Interesting.
Another thing they also did was something called the side view window, which was a patented thing that they did, where right next to the color chip was a cutaway. It was actually a die cut area, so that when a guy was trying to match a color on a car, he could open up the page of this book, put it up against the car, and he could see instantly which is the right color, when he's trying to identify the paint code to, let's just say, typically these kinds of tools are used in body shops. Okay. And I've, if they work, I've done it. I go out to the parking lot here at work and I'll just take a car at random, and I can identify the paint code using that book in about 10 seconds.
There's some weird guy running around the parking lot at CC.
I know. Yeah.
You gotta be careful about that stuff these days, Jerry.
I know.
It's a problem for me because, I have two sons, and they help me in my business often. And we'll be out driving around. I'm like, Jake, go over there. I want to, because I always have my Spectro with me. My device. I want to measure that building. I want those colors. And we've encountered many things. It's like security guards popping their head out. It's like, what are you doing? Like, it's like, I just want the paint colors. That's all I want. I just want the paint colors. But so the gray background is a hot button for us because just to give you a little more background on that, and I don't know where to start, but people have trouble identifying, as in particular neutrals, what hue family they belong to. And it's like, what color of gray is it that I'm working with? And they pick up the chip in the store and they think that it's going to be more of a bluish gray. They get it home and it turns purple. And it's like, well, why is that? And it's like, if you can identify the hue family on the front end, you know what you're going to get. But there's not a process for that in paint stores, and that's what we do in Camp Chroma is we use the color data values, and hue family is the most is the most basic level of the 3 dimensions of color to employ to help you choose a paint color. So, you know, you look up the hue family, you look up the LCH hue angle, look on, you know, you look on the color wheel, and it tells you what hue family that color of gray belongs to. That's a process, right? That people need to be educated about and know about. And because they don't know, they think that their only option is to compare paint chips to a white background in order to be able to determine what that discernible hue is going to be in the color. Well, then you just end up making more problems for yourself because now you're underestimating how colorful it is.
Mhm.
And, you know, now you have a whole bucket of skewed perception to deal with, not just what color was it, you know? So that's,
Surround is a big deal.
yeah, surround is a big deal. And so is lighting. And I find it really interesting that you know, because I've read the standards before for chips, because this is not a new issue either to discuss. And it's fascinating the stringent standards there are for these chips.
Yeah. Some of the manufacturing guidelines that we follow for the paint companies are small books. They spell out a lot of things, and it's whenever we take people on plant tours, and these are usually people from the paint industry, they're always amazed. You know, they don't realize what goes in to making color collateral.
I don't think anybody does.
Yeah.
And, you know, so when that whole thing happened with, you know, it's not real paint and you have to have a real sample board, it's like, that's kind of not true.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why we're here today. And when Peter suggested we collaborate, I'm like, you know what? This is a darn good idea and we are going to do it. So I think we got everybody's questions in. And just one last time, if you guys want to get a color tack, we have a link for you, and it's in the comments, and I'll also put it in the comments on wherever this thing goes. I don't even know where we're going right now. A lot of places, but I'll put it there. So, Jerry, I'm gonna, hold you to your promise that you're gonna come back and tell us about what's new.
Okay, I would love to.
And Peter, I will see you out there on social media a lot more. I'm sure you are killing it in your new job. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And Lori, before we go, I just wanted to tell you that if you need any information about really our innovative products, how we've worked on it, or any verifying proof, our case studies page is a great read. It's right under About on our webpage, and it provides 9 or 10 different stories you would love. And maybe your tribe would as well.
They would. They absolutely would. What is your website?
CCIcolor.com.
CCIcolor.com. And you are out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn?
At Real Color 2. That's
okay.
REL. Yep.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you guys want to say before we go? Last call.
It's been a pleasure.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I love talking to people who are as passionate about color as I am.
Yeah. There's a few of us out here for sure. Yeah. You found your people.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. We're going to go, guys.
Thanks
for joining us, everyone. It's been great. I'll talk to you again probably next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Lori.
Thank you.